Everybody like to see a beautiful UI with smooth animations. This makes animation a very important aspect when building the UI of your application. And this is where the motion layout comes very handy. The motion layout is used to create animations on top of the constraint layout. It helps you to animate various properties of items within the layout. In this video, we're going to see how to use the motion layout to create beautiful animations of items within the layout. Here are some key aspects about the motion layout. It's built on top of the constraint layout. It's very easy to use since everything can be done basically from the motion layout editor, and it gives you the possibility to change very fine details about the transition or about the animation, hence make it very suitable for complex animation. And at the time of recording of this video, the motion layout is backward compatible to API 14. That being said, let's move to Android Studio to find out how to use this motion layout. Okay, here in Android Studio, this is a simple project I've just created, and in this project we have our activity main, and we have a layout file that holds a view. So a very simple project. We have our activity main, and in this activity main file we have a layout file that holds a view, and you can see that the parent layout is a constraint layout, right? And in this we have a view, just a simple view, constraint to the left, constraint to the left and to the top of our parent layout. This is our simple view, and in this video I want to show you how you can animate this view very simple with the motion layout. Now, to start using the motion layout, we need to convert our constraint layout. We need to convert our constraint layout to the motion layout, and to do that, right click on our layout and choose convert to motion layout and click on convert. Now, what do you notice? You notice that our constraint layout is converted to the motion layout, and you can select the split mode to find out the difference. You find out that our constraint layout is converted to the motion layout. As I said earlier, the motion layout inherits from the constraint layout. So in the motion layout we also have constraints, right? That's the beauty of it. And one thing I also want to show you is that when we converted our constraint layout to a motion layout, we have what is called a scene. This is our scene that is created. We have what is called a scene, our scene that is created. And in this scene file, we have a constraint set, that is the start constraint set and the end constraint set. The constraint set marks the state of our UI or the state of our item at a specific point. The constraint set here, this is the start constraint set. This will hold the constraints of items within our screen at this point. So let me show you. So this is the starting point of our animation, and this is the ending point of our animation. So this starting point is denoted with a start constraint set, and this ending point is denoted with the end constraint set. So these are just these two states of our animations, right? And this motion layout here is the default state of our animation, right? So this will be the constraint set for this state of our animation, and this will be the constraint set for the state of our animation. And this arrow here is a transition. It's a transition from this state to this state, right? And as of now, both the constraint set, the start constraint set and the end constraint set inherit constraint from the default state, which is the motion layout here, right? Now, let's say we want to animate our view. We want to animate these views in such a way that at the beginning, that's this start constraint set, we have this view at the top left, and at the end constraint set we have this view to be in the bottom right. How do we do that? We do that by selecting the end constraint set here and select the view, and now we can create a constraint such that this view should be at the bottom right. Then we need to cancel this constraint here and cancel this one here, such that our view should be at the bottom right. So what do you notice? Notice that at the beginning we have our view at the top left, and at the end of our animation the view will be in the bottom right. and I can click on transition and play it so that you have a preview of how it will look like. So this is our animation. I can change the speed using this arrow here. I will choose 0.5 so that you can see how our view will be animated from the start constraint set to the end constraint set. And if I go to the constraint set, to the scene file, you'll find out that our end constraint set was updated because we constrain the view to be at the bottom. We constrain our view to be at the bottom of our parent layout in this end constraint set. So that's why you see that this constraint set is updated to match what we did in the MotionLayout editor. The power of the MotionLayout is that we can do everything from the MotionLayout editor. We don't have to go to the XML to update whatever, even though we can do that, but it's easier to use the MotionLayout editor. So that's how our animation will look like. This is a start. At the starting we have this, and at the end we have this, and this is a transition that shows how our item move from the start to the end. Now we can also add what we call the duration of our transition. So if we want our transition insert to last longer, we can update this property of the transition called the duration, and I can make it, for example, to 2 seconds because it's in milliseconds. So this is 2000 milliseconds, which is equal to 2 seconds. I can update it by putting in 2000, and what do you notice? You notice that our transition takes a longer time, right? Because we've updated the duration to 2 seconds. But it all depends on what you want to achieve. So I can change it back to 1000 milliseconds. That is 1 second. Update it here, and that's okay. So let me put pause here, and you'll find out that our transition is actually a linear transition. Transition of our item from the start constraint set to the end constraint set is being done linearly in a straight line, as you can see from here. You see? Now we can change that. It should not be linear. We can change that. If we want instead our item to move, instead of moving linearly, we want it to move like a curve, in a curve-like manner, right? If we want it to move in a curve-like manner, we can select our transition and add what is called a key position. The key position is actually used to change the position of our item at a point in the transition, right? So if we want to change the position of our item, this position marks at what point in the transition we want to update property of this item. So this position, if you put 0, it's at the beginning of the transition. If you put 100, it's at the end of the transition. And if you put 50, it's at the midway of the transition, the middle of the transition. So we want to update the position of our view in the middle of the transition, such that in the middle of the transition we want to change the position of our view relative to the parent, right? We want it to be 20% away from the parent, right, horizontally, and 50% away from the parent vertically, right? And if you add that, you find out that our item will not be moving again linearly, but moving in a curve-like manner. So as I can play the animation, and you find out that it's not moving again linearly, and it's not moving in a curve-like manner. So this is how powerful the MotionLayout is. At a point in the transition, we can update the movement of our view, or we can update the animation. We can update the animation at a point in the transition from the start to the end, right? So if I play it right now, I change the speed, you find out that our item is now moving in a curve-like manner. Now, what if at a point in the transition we want to change the alpha, that is the opacity. we want it that in this middle we want to change the opacity to 50%. We can still select the transition and click on this icon right here and select the key attribute. The key attribute is a property where we can update some property of our item, like from the alpha, the elevation, the rotation, the translation. So right now I want to just update the alpha, that is the opacity. So at the 50 position, that is in the midway of our animation, I want to change the opacity, right? So I'll click add, and if I go to, this is it here, and if I click on attribute, you find out that I can now give a value. I want you to have an opacity of 40%, or no, let's say 50% in the midway of our animation. So what do you notice? You notice that if I try to animate, right, at the beginning the opacity is 100%, and as we are going towards the middle of our animation, the transition manager finds a way to smoothen the animation to change the properties so that in the middle of our animation our view should have an alpha of 50%. And as we are going again to the end of our transition, the transition manager smoothing again the transition such that at the end we have again the opacity to 100% to match the constraint we define, right? That is it. And I can play it and update how it's moving. You see, as easy as that. Now I want to add again something. I want to add something again to our animation. I want to reduce the size of our view. Still at the midway of our animation, I want to reduce the size of our view. And to do that, I can still select the transition and add a key attribute such that in the middle of our animation, that is marked by the 50%, in the middle of our animation, I want to reduce the size, and to do that we use what we call the scale. I want to scale it down. I want to scale it down horizontally. I want to scale the horizontal axis. I want to scale it down. I will add it here, and this is a scale, right? This is a scale here. I'll select, tap here, and go to attribute, and I will scale it down by 50% by adding 0.5. I scale it down by 50%, and I will add another key attribute to scale it down vertically too. To scale Y, I scale it down vertically, still in the middle of the animation. This is it. Select scale Y, right, and select scale Y, and still put 0.5. So what do you notice? You notice that if I try to animate, as we are moving towards the middle of our animation, our view is reducing in size. It's being scaled down by 50% at the middle of our animation. And as we are moving from the middle to the end, the transition manager smoothing again the transition such that our view is increasing in size until the end it gains its original dimension, right? And I will play it now. Reduce the speed, and you can see how this view is being animated. Very smooth, very easy as that, right? Now we can also update other properties of our view. As I told you, the motion layout gives us the possibility to animate various aspects of our items within the motion layout. So if I want to animate the color, for example, if I want to animate the color such that at the beginning of our transition our view should have a specific color, and at the end it should have a different color, what I should do is that I will call what we call a custom attribute. I will come to the start of our animation, and I will add a custom attribute, right? Select this the constraint set. You select the view and add what is called a custom attribute. Here we'll select color. We want to change put the background color. I'll still put it black, no problem. Background color of black, and move now to the end state, and still select view and add a custom attribute, such that at the end this same custom attribute, which is background color, should have a different value. Now what happens is that at the beginning of our transition, that is at the start constraint set, we have our view with a different color, and at the end of our transition, our view has now a different color, right? So if I play it, click on the transition and play it, let's say reduce the speed, this is what happens, right? It starts with the black color, and ends with the purple color. Very easy as that. Very smooth, right? I like the motion layout, and I really like the motion layout. It's really easy to use and gives you the possibility to animate various properties of an item within the motion layout. As very easy as that. Now what we can do also is that we can add another constraint set. That is, we can add another state in our animation. We are not limited to two states. We can add a new constraint set. For example, what if I want my view, this view at a certain point, to be here at the top, right? What if I want this view at a certain point to be at the top right? To do that, I should create a new constraint set. As I told you, the constraint set marks the state of our transition at a particular time. So I will create a new constraint set, and I will give an ID of state 3, for example. Let's call it state 3, and it will be based on the constraint from the end. So state 3 constraint set, we start from the end and move to a new state. So based on the end, I will add it, and this is our new state which is created, and we can now use it. And in this state, I want our item to be moved to the top right. So I will cancel this guy, and in this state our item will move to the top right, while at the end state our item is at this point, right? Now I can add a transition from the end state to this state. I can do that by selecting this end state and click on transition. This button adds a transition. The transition starts from this end state to state 3, right? I want it to be animated. Yes, let's say automatically animated to the end. So our transition will start from this end state to state 3, and it will be automatically animated. So the transition will be automatically triggered, right? So let's say add. So this is our new animation, and I can play it right here. You see, I can play it right here, and you find out that our item moves from this point to this point, right? As easy as that. Now let's say we want that as state 3, we want this view to have a different color, so that we can better appreciate the animation. Let me add a different color. Let me add a different custom attribute. Let's say it's purple, right? Purple 700. It's better, right? Now let me click on transition and try to play it again. Reduce the speed. And what do you notice? You notice that at the beginning our transition moves from the bottom till the end is at the top, right, by changing the colors, right, by changing the colors. Very good. So you've seen how we can create various states within the motion layout editor. We can create various constraint sets. This is a start constraint set, this is a second constraint set, and this will be the end of our animation. We can create as many constraints set as possible depending on what we want to achieve. Now we've seen how to create the constraint set, we've seen how to create animations, and we've seen how to change the properties of items within the transition or in the constraint set. Right, as easy as that. So let's run our application to find out how this behave in our application. So I will click on the run button here and open our emulator, and this is it. Oh, our application is not animating. What's happening? Okay, so the issue here is that we need to trigger the animation, and a transition can be triggered in 3 different ways. When using the motion layout, we can either trigger it by doing it automatically, or we can do it with a click or with a swipe action. So since this is since we are just starting application, I will put an automatic automatic starting to our transition by adding a property called auto transition and say animate to the end, right? And if I run again our application, you'll find out that the transition starts automatically after the application starts. You see? Let me start it again so you can see. Let me start it again so you can see. You see? So this is how we can trigger the animation, but we can also do that by using what we call a click listener. For example, if I select this transition, I can add a click listener such that this transition should be triggered when an event happens. I will add a click listener, and I will add a click listener on view 2, right? So when I will click on this view, this transition will be started. So let me add this and run again the application. And run again the application is starting. Oh, I need to remove the auto transition. Once I've added the click handler, I need to remove the auto transition. Right, and run the application again. Right, so if I click now on this view, the animation will be started. So once I click, it starts, right? That is it. So you can also add a handler by using a swipe action, right? I can add a swipe action if I want to swipe it from drag direction from drag down, because we will drag the item from the top to the bottom. Anchor is top and the ID is still view 2. So when I drag this view I will drag this view down, and by so doing our item will be animated. So if I add this and I drag it down, let me run the application so you can see. So this is it. So I can drag, oh sorry, oh I need to remove the on-click trigger. I need to remove this first and run again the application. Right, now I can drag it smoothly. You see, I can drag it and it shows you how the animation starts. But once it reaches this end, the animation from here to the top will be done automatically. So once it reaches the end, it animates automatically, right? So The animation from the start to the end will be triggered by dragging this view from the top to the bottom, and the animation from the end to the state 3 will be done automatically. So these are the various ways which you can trigger an animation. The automatic starting of animation is very useful when you are just entering the application and you want to show to the user some specific animations. And this other way of triggering the animation is useful if you're clicking on a button or if you are swiping. Okay guys, this is just a preview of what you can do with the motion layout. Please check the link in the description below to find out a link to more information about the motion layout, and feel free to drop questions or comments in the comment section below. I'll be happy to answer to your questions. So see you in the next video and take care.